able to join us yesterday for our women's worship and fellowship event. If you weren't there, we missed you. I sure hope you can jump in on something with us soon. But it was such a sweet time, and we talked about knowing the Lord more. We talked about the idea of a lifelong pursuit of knowing God more and more and more. That never-ending effort of getting to know who the God of the Bible is, who he reveals himself to be in the pages of his word, because that has to be the anchor of our knowledge, that capital T truth as he has revealed himself. You know, there have been some times in my walk with the Lord where I've had to unlearn some things. Some times that he said, Jenna, I'm not like that. You have projected something on me that is not accurate. You are using your own human logic and understanding, and you're not looking at my word, because that's where I tell you who I am. Or maybe sometimes there were things or experiences that I had in earthly relationships, and I projected those characteristics onto God, and he graciously showed me, Jenna, I know that person responded to you like that, but that's not who I am. I'm not like that. So don't let that cloud your knowledge of who I am. Always go to my word to find out who I am. We talked yesterday about the word know, K-N-O-W. Paul uses this word several times in his letters, and he uses the same Greek word many times, which I won't try to pronounce because I will butcher it. But this word conveys a lot more than just head knowledge. This is head knowledge that has trickled down into the core of a person, into their personal experience. It is knowledge that has been applied and experienced in life. It is an intimate knowing. Paul prayed over the church of Ephesus in chapter 1 that they would know him better, that they would know God better. And in Philippians chapter 3, he said, nothing compares to the treasure of knowing Jesus Christ. There have been different times of my life where I have felt the Lord challenge me to know him better. And one of those times and one of those passages that he has used has been Exodus 34. And I love this so much because this is where he begins to explain to Moses and to the Israelites, this is what it is like to be in relationship with me. Certainly, he had already revealed himself through the pages of his word in many ways to his people before Exodus 34. But this is really the first time where we see him use this series of relational words to describe himself. If you're going to be part of the 4-week Know, K-N-O-W Bible study that we're going to start, it actually begins tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, and it'll also be offered on Wednesday evenings. It is not too late to jump into that, so check out our social media pages or the website if you would still like to register to be a part of one of those Bible studies. But we're going to dive into this passage in Exodus 34. We're going to pick it apart and really learn who God is according to who he said, because this passage in Exodus, it's a quote from God about God. And if this is one of the first times that he really reveals who he is relationally, how important is it for us that our first thoughts of God would be consistent with this, would be in line with who he has revealed himself to be? So let's look at Exodus 34. Verses 6 through 8. The Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, a God merciful and gracious, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, but who will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the children's children, to the third and fourth generation. And Moses quickly bowed his head toward the earth and worshiped. This is almost like God's about me section of his biography, if you will. Again, he reveals himself through all the pages of his word, but I just love how he gives this detailed picture of what it looks like to be in relationship with him. And the question is, when I first think about who God is this what's at the forefront of my mind? That he is gracious, that he is merciful, that he is slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, that he is forgiving, but that he by no means clears the guilty. Years ago, the Lord really just challenged me to get to know him in his word better. And so I learned the names of God. And I had no idea the curveballs that were coming my way in life in the years following that season. But I can remember during just a season of a lot of hardship, a lot of things that happened that I would have never scripted into my life, and a lot of prayers and crying out to the Lord in anguish and in just deep sadness. And I remember saying to him over and over and over again, because again, I had just gone through and learned his names. I remember saying to him, but I know who you are. But I know who you are. I know who you are. Even though at the time I didn't feel it, even though at the time I wasn't seeing it, I would say that to him over and over again, preaching it to my own heart. I know who you are. Do you know the God of the Bible? Do you know who he has revealed himself to be in the pages of his word? What do we do when we want to get to know someone better? We spend time with them, right? We spend more and more time with them. We include them in the regular rhythms of our life. And that's where that head knowledge translates and trickles down into the core of who we are. And that knowing becomes intimate knowledge that is connected also with personal experience. When we consistently put energy and effort into knowing God more and more and more every day for the rest of our lives, there is just huge impact in every other area of our life. As my relationship with the Lord has grown, as I've deepened my knowledge of him, as I have fixed my eyes more on him, it has had a huge impact to all of my earthly relationships. And it has helped my perspective on things in life as well, as I continue to understand new depths of how huge he is, how loving, how kind, how sovereign he is. It helps keep perspective on other things in my life. It helps molehills stay molehills and not become mountains. It also has grown peace in my life. So how much effort, how much energy are we putting regularly into knowing God better through the truth of his word? I want to end by reading a quote to you from A.W. Tozer. I love the way he encourages and challenges us through this, but it says, 1,000 distractions would woo us away from thoughts of God. But if we are wise, we will sternly put them from us and make room for the King and take time to entertain him. Some things may be neglected, but with little loss to the spiritual life. But to neglect communion with God is to hurt ourselves where we cannot afford it. God will respond to our efforts to know Him. The Bible tells us how. It is altogether a matter of how much determination we bring to the holy task. So this week, let's bring determination to the holy task of knowing God better. I hope you have a great week.